Welcome to the Padres Hot Tub, everybody. Craig Elsten, Chris Reed, Raphie Cantor. We are together recording on the first day of the All-Star break, knuckling down for your All-Star Week content with only bad games to look back at and no games to look at for the week that will be, at least not till the end. But we'd like to start today's show, and this is going to be very brief. Trust me, this isn't going to be a PBS membership drive, but it is a membership drive. Padres Hot, it's a PHT membership drive. Well, we've got an incredible Patreon community, and here at the All-Star Break is a great time to join us. There are different ways you can do that. Patreon.com/Padres Hot Tub. Go check it out. Find the level that is right for you. You can sign up monthly, or you can sign up to a yearly membership. And a yearly membership, first off, saves you the total of 2 months. It's essentially like getting 12 months for the price of 10.
Yeah.
So it's a great value in and of itself. But just as a little bit of an incentive, between today, the first day of the All-Star break, and the end of this month, the trade deadline, if you sign up and or upgrade your membership to an annual big or huge patron membership, you will get a Waldron Cauldron t-shirt, which I will drop my mic and hold up to the camera as a perk of your membership if you sign up at that annual level at the big or huge the next 2 weeks.
Looks great. And by the way, I also want to say, if you're a patron and you're listening to this right now and you're like, why am I hearing this? I normally don't hear stuff like this. I'll tell you why. It's because actually only a small fraction of our patrons are annual members. The vast majority of our patrons are month to month. And we really want to hang out with you guys all year long. And it's a big way to help us. It's a big way to help the show. And also, like, the off season, very important time in our PhD Discord. I feel like that's when we really get to know each other.
Yes. Our off-season watch parties. We had so many different movies we watched last year together. Yes, the campouts are fun. Yeah. We sing songs. You can find all that out. And listen, it's a membership drive. So if you sign up at the lower level, we're also offering a discount. But there's all sorts of great benefits to being a Patreon member already. We're already trying to over-deliver for the price that we pay. So check it out, patreon.com/Padres Hot Tub, but become an annual member between now and the end of the All-Star break.
Well, we've got fun things for people who do that.
Jump into the cauldron. And
we got
Chris,
fun things. We got fun things. Everybody who signs up, new members, or committing your regular membership to an annual, will get a discount coupon for said Waldron Cauldron t-shirt. And everybody who upgrades, like Raphie said, gets a free one. So you got some incentive to go your way. And also, if you upgrade to a big membership or go to the annual membership from the monthly, you'll get $10 off your next break with us at Padres Hot Tub Breaks. So that is another month, basically, that you won't have to pay if you join us for the baseball cards.
Yeah. So just to recap, everyone, if you join at the lower level at an annual, the annual level at the lowest level, we will send you 20% off a coupon for a Waldron Cauldron t-shirt. 20% off. It will come from me into your Discord inbox, Gmail inbox, whatever you want. If you commit as a big annual patron or a huge annual patron, you will not only get a free Waldron Cauldron t-shirt, but you will also get $10 off PHT breaks. So,
and you're also going to get the stuff you would normally get. This is a new special 2-week thing until the trade deadline, when we will still have a baseball team.
Trade deadline is July 30th at 3 p.m. Pacific time.
Add over patreon.com/Padres Hot Tub. But thank you. Thank you to everyone who supports this show already. Thank you to everyone who's part of this community already. And if you were thinking about helping, here's a little bit of an incentive. And for anyone, if you want to buy a Waldron Cauldron t-shirt, PadresHotTub.com/merch. It's pretty sick.
It's glorious.
It is beyond sick.
Yeah.
It might be one of the wonders of the world. I don't know what we're up to.
11, I think.
Okay, it's the 11th. It's the Nuck.
I think Beyonce was 10.
Yes.
Um,
And look, I mean, that came from a prompt that one of our Patreon members went with in the Discord. So it's a great community. But we won't sell anymore.
That's it. If you've been plus 30ing all your way through this, you've finally hit the right spot to stop.
HJ Preller's foaming at the mouth right now.
Oh, yeah.
I understand.
Yeah.
He
I
just got
understand.
twice as much content for next
HJ is
episode.
now so happy because he can finally do a show again because the team lost again. He had 3 weeks where he couldn't do a show. He just couldn't even do it. So now he can go back and go, ba-ba-ba. And I look forward to it. I love the ba-ba-ba. All right. We're at the midway point.
Well,
we're going to get
really.
into we're not at the midway point. We're at the 99 game mark. We're well over 60% into the season. There's 63 games left. 63. Yeah. Don't we know what this team is?
I think we know what
more
they
than
can
last year.
Be.
No, like much more than last year. Last year they were a flaming disappointment, but we thought they could be something else. Like for a long, long time. Don't we just know what this team is at the 99 game mark?
Absolutely.
Go ahead, a little bit more, yes, a little bit more, but I don't like comparing them to that team at all. For so many reasons. Number one, how the story ended with that last team, and that team did do crazy things at the end. That kind of, that was the gaslighting team. This team is not gaslighting us. I'll say that.
Yeah. I mean, last year's team was such a cipher because they were like an optical illusion where like all of the underlying laws of physics that we know about baseball were telling us this is what this team is. And then in fact, they were something else entirely, which was a bag of shit. And so that was like really difficult to endure. Whereas this year, it's sort of like they are who we thought they were sort of thing where like I pulled some stuff just going into this. Like right now we are tied for 15th in the league, which is of course right in the middle in terms of win-loss percentage at 505. We have a plus 12 run differential. So in 99 games, we've only scored 12 more runs than we've given up. 51 and 48th Pythagorean. That's 16th, right in the middle again. Even the stuff where you see like we're extreme on one side, we're just as extreme on the other side. So while we have the 22nd best home record by win percentage at 26 and 28, we have the 7th best road record. While we have the 11th best record against teams that are 500 or above, we have the 22nd worst record against teams that are below 500. And our last 30 games, we're 16 and 14. I mean, like everything about this team, everything averages out to being right in the middle. So yes, this is a 500 team.
I want to push back a tiny bit. I want to push back just a little bit. This isn't a 500 team. This is a better than 500 team because on all these little things, they've done better. Most games over 500, 6. Most games under 500, 4. Most runs scored, 15. Most runs allowed, 11. Times shut out by opponent, 8. Times opponent shut out, 5. That's important. That's one of the ones that they're going the other way on. But on the rest of them, they're doing slightly better. More walk-off wins than losses. Bigger comeback than lead blown. Like I think that the same numbers show us that they are slightly good.
But those are a lot of those are individual game statistics. Like I'm talking about shit as a whole, and as a whole, they are one game over 500, and that's exactly where they deserve to be.
I agree. I think we know this team's strengths and we know this team's weaknesses. This team was, by design, pared down a great deal from 2023. They had to replace, in essence, this year, the entire starting rotation. Because on the way out was Snell and Waka and Lugo and Nick Martinez. But the two guys who stuck around, Darvish and Musgrove, have been barely here at all. They've been mostly injured the whole year. and or ineffective, with a brief stretch of Darvish effectiveness not to be forgotten. 5 great starts after his first injury. So really, they've had to almost start anew with the pitching staff. And what they've gotten is maybe what you might expect if you had to rebuild a pitching staff anew. They've had a mixed performance. They've gotten the best, or at least I'd say 90th percentile Michael King. Once he settled in, you've gotten over 110 innings from Michael King at the 100-game mark. Here, you've got over 110 innings from Dylan Cease, who's in the top 6 in the league in innings pitched. Matt Waldron is over 100 innings pitched for your team. A lot of folks didn't think he would throw 60 innings in Big League Baseball this year. Now he's got a Waldron Cauldron t-shirt. He's been huge for this team. People have stepped up, but the people behind them have been really, really shaky for San Diego this year. People filling into the rotation and people in the back half of the bullpen have been extraordinarily shaky for this team, leaking runs all the time. And the Padres have leaked a lot more runs than we thought, while having scored a lot more runs than we thought they would as well.
Yeah. I mean, I think you look at the team in the 2024 season, I think given everything that this team is up against right now in terms of injury, you cannot be anything but thrilled with where we're at right now, which is like, it's one of those things where, like, if I told you at the beginning of the season that Joe Musgrove would be injured for most of it, and when he wasn't injured, he was terrible, that Darvish has what?
Just for these two guys real quick, Musgrove's projections was 2.5 win. He's given us minus 0.1.
Yeah.
Darvish, 2.5 wins, 1.
Yeah. And so if I told you at the beginning of the season that those guys would be essentially non-entities so far this year, then that would be one thing. If I told you that Manny Machado was on pace for basically the worst season of his career, and I told you that Jurickson Profar would be leading the team in F4 by a considerable margin, that Fernando Tatis Jr. would be missing with a potentially season-altering, if not season majorly affecting injury, all these other ifs, ands, or buts, and that the team was above 500 in the playoff race, like, you would be thrilled. Now, I do think it is also something of a concern in that all of the boats that this organization has hitched, themselves to, are essentially not doing well this season. Like Darvish, Musgrove, Machado, Bogarts.
Oh, you mean long-term? Long-term boats.
Yeah. All of the long-term boats that, that this maybe wagons, I don't know what the metaphor I'm trying to use is.
Yeah,
but
boats, aren't all boats supposed to be long-term? Or paper boats? I guess paper boats are designed
drones,
to be
helicopters, planes, trains, automobiles, all that stuff. The ones that the organization have committed to long-term are pretty much all having down years, except for Tatis, and he's now injured. And so I think from a long-term standpoint, the season is definitely more concerning. But from a 2024 this season standpoint, you can't be anything but happy, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, the Padres have had better highs this year already than they had all last year. San Diego went 9-23 in one-run games last year. This year they're 10-12. So they've already won more one-run games through 99 games than they did through 162 games last year. We have felt that. We have felt the exciting wins. We've felt the big comebacks. We've felt the moments where the Padres have jumped off the deck. And those big performances have ballasted us through a season where also San Diego is one of only 5 teams in baseball who have lost 5 in a row 4 or more times in the season. All of those teams have losing records except for San Diego. And it's all the teams you would have thought. The Rockies, the Marlins, the White Sox, the Rangers is a surprising one on there. And then there's the San Diego Padres. But every time that the Padres have put together even a short stretch of success, they have immediately followed it with a losing streak of between 3 and 5 games. They've done it every time. And when I went back and asked for a month of good baseball, and then you guys were like, well, did we get it? 12-3 lasted just over 2 weeks. It was 1 game of one series, 1 game of other series, and 4 series that the team won. And it was great. 12-3 was great. There was an 0-5 before it. There was an 0-5 after it. And what you said, Chris, 30-game sample, it's 16-14. There was a 12-3 inside of 16-14. So this team hasn't been able to, at any point, show us that there's a level to it that's 10 or more games over 500, that's in that real contender range.
Yeah. If you look at their month by month, even if you don't try to butter knife it, April was their first complete month. They won at a 4.44 clip. May was their best month, and they won at a 5.93 clip. I'd argue that like a really good team, like the team you're looking for, Craig, would win 2/3 of their games. Like I think that would be like this is the team playing to the best of their ability for a month, and that would be winning, 610, 650. And not sub 6. They haven't eclipsed 6 in a month. July has not gone well for them so far, but it's still super early in the month at least. So that's why I'm not happy with the team, Rafe. Like I came in with really high expectations for them. And I know they've dealt with adversity. I know Tatis Jr., who was projected to be their leader in WAR, going down has had a huge impact on the team, and David Peralta, Bryce Johnson, but the lack of availability between Musgrove and Darvish has been brutal. So I think my grades might be they're going to reflect somebody not exactly stoked with how it's gone.
Sure. I think the last thought that I'll have on that is, this is my bloomer thought going into the report card. I think you have to be happy with the team at just above 500, given everything that's, happened with the team in terms of injury this year. It also means that if everyone comes back, like there's another gear that this team has not unlocked yet. And I feel strongly about that. I just don't feel particularly optimistic that everyone's going to come back. So that's kind of where I stand.
I think that the team has to be good in the next 15 games to have any chance to make it to the end of the season. And that's why I'm scared right now of where the team is at the All-Star break. Because I'm looking at a team that just went 2-6 against good teams, looked overmatched a couple times, at least offensively. Pitching staffs looked overmatched for a while, and has to go to Cleveland, go to Washington, go to Baltimore. Two of those places, they haven't lost a home series. Like Cleveland hasn't lost a home series all year. If Baltimore's lost one, hasn't been in a while.
Baltimore got swept at home last 2. Oh, they almost got swept by the Yankees. They got swept by somebody not great. They had their first.
Well, then they got it out of their
and,
fucking system. Yeah. They're a great team. They're the best team they're the best team in the American League, and they've been that. And if it's not them, it's Cleveland.
Cleveland, yeah.
So you're playing those teams in their park, and you're going to come home to play LA. And the day that the LA series is over, the trade deadline is over. So that's 11 games where if you told me that they won 4, that they won a game in Cleveland, they won a game in Baltimore, they won 2 games in Washington, they lost the 2 to LA, like 4-7, you're sitting 2 games under 500 at the trade deadline, and you're going to be in 9th place.
They play good teams well, though, man. They really do. It's like
they just did against Arizona, Seattle, and
but they've had Bryce Johnson, but they're going to have them.
But they're still going to have Bryce Johnson.
Yeah.
I mean, to back up what Chris is saying, they are 11th in the league in terms of win percentage against teams above 500. So I mean, they got to do it now.
All I'm trying to say is I don't care who they're playing. I care how they're playing, and they're coming into the break playing badly.
They got the Pirates for 2 series right after that in August. Like the Pirates are right behind them. They're
Yeah,
I
they're
think
gonna
a
get
game behind
Skeens
them,
at least once in there.
almost undoubtedly. So if not twice, I'm not trying to doom. I'm saying that the playoff is immediate
Sure.
for the San Diego Padres. I'm not saying that they can make the playoffs by going 11-10 in their next 21 games, but I'm saying that if this is where their bad stretch is, it will cost them the playoffs. These games, because this is the time. This is the time where the decisions are made. This is the time where teams are going to make the call to improve. And the fact that you've sunk behind them gives those teams ballast to continue to work toward improvement. The Mets are now planning to be in it. The Cardinals are making plans they weren't making earlier in the year when they had a losing record. And likewise, the Diamondbacks feel like they're right in it. And the Giants just acquired a Cy Young Award winner because second half Blake Snell has arrived. So they're now going to get a dominant start every 5 days, in their rotation, and they're hoping to get some more of that as the year goes on. I think the Padres are in a very fragile position 99 games in. They have the ability to do it, but they've also shown a weakness over the course of the year that if they just give into that a little bit, they are going to be under 500.
Their playoff odds do reflect that weakness.
And also, their playoff odds, it should be said, are basically right in line with where it started at the beginning of the year, which is I think they started at 40% playoff odds and they're at 39%, according to Fangraphs. So now, never mind the fact that they were at 66% 10 days ago. So, they really, really fumbled by
And the Mets
not just
were out of it.
And I mean, I wouldn't say out of. We actually were the ones who resuscitated the Mets in a way by getting swept by them.
They won 7 straight games in the middle of that, and we were like at the end of it. They were 11 games out, and now they hold number 6.
Yeah, but losing games to the Diamondbacks and the Braves specifically, just like other NL wildcard. Not that I ever thought we were interested, nor were we realistically going to catch up to the Braves. It's still not optimal to lose games to them, to drop games to them. So, it goes back. I think, Chris, it was you that brought up the Bill James quote about everything feeling as a 500 team, like every win and loss you live and die by because they're so valuable to you, because you're just trying to come out like 3 or 4 games at the end of 162 in the plus column, like that everything just feels like so monumental. And I'm with you, Craig, in terms of like if they lay an egg, in these very 3 difficult series right out of the break, and then also have to come home and play the Dodgers, like I don't know that you can justify being a huge buyer, which we all anticipate them being, because how thin is this farm system now?
Right.
They're based off of what came out of Fangraphs. They issued their 31 top prospect report a couple days ago, and I mean they said what we all know, which is that this is an average system that has great talent at the top and not much after the 4th or 5th spot. And so if they want to make an impact, they're going to have to depart with that great talent. And
I want to
add
to your point, because we are talking about guys who might be moving in the next couple weeks, and that great system and what it's doing. And right now, as far as the Fangraphs minor league power rankings, who would you guess is our number 1, the guy that's thriving in the minor leagues right now? It's Torso Ornelas.
Yeah.
So, like, if other teams are looking at the guy who might be able to contribute now, Turso isn't exactly the name that will get their appetites wet, and it's definitely not a guaranteed. But my point is that we don't have anybody lighting up the minor leagues right now. Grant Pauly, who we had kind of hoped might be one of those guys, he's 522. There's just that bait isn't really there.
Okay, so as we get into this and kind of go into position groups and whatnot, I'd like to ask you a similar question that I asked Annie and Braden in the studio. Would you agree with this premise? Okay.
Ooh, I love a good premise, a log line.
Would you agree with the premise that if the Padres are going to get to where we want them to be, the way it's going to happen is that they are going to catch a wave at the precise right time, meaning that they will eke into the playoffs, but do so in a manner where they get on one of their brief hot streaks, because we've seen them go on 5-1 streaks, just like we've seen them go on 0-5 streaks. And that just like the Diamondbacks or some of the other teams that have caught a wave in previous years, you're going to catch a wave in the playoffs and you're going to ride that wave as far as it takes you. And that's our win condition. We're not a dominant team. We're not at the level of some of the other teams. I'd say 3 teams in this league, Philadelphia, LA, and Atlanta. We're not at their level. We're trying to catch a wave and get lucky. It's kind of what every team has to do.
Yeah.
So in a way, it's everyone's win condition, but we're not going to go get the number 1 seed. We're not going to go get the number 4 seed. We're not going to be the structurally dominant team that's going in as a favorite. We're looking to get kind of hot at the right time.
I think they need to get people back at the right time and have things figured out. Like by then you have things, but you have like Kyle Higashioka is your 2 out of 3 games catcher as opposed to Camposano. And, you're not relying on Adam Major. You're not relying on Randy Vasquez all the time. Or, I mean, you might still have to. But my point is, yes, and we know that they're capable of doing that, but I think it's more about availability to that condition happening than, vibes. The vibes are good on this team. I feel pretty darn strong about it. It's just short of injury and us getting into the Jake Arrietas and the Vince Velasquez's of the world, I don't see collapse. But what I do see is guys not coming back. Like Raphie talked about, he's not convinced that we're going to get everybody back. The news out of Tatis camp has been optimistic, which is nice. The news out of Musgrove camp has been vaguely optimistic. No news out of Darvish camp. Yeah, I couldn't agree more, Rafe. But
Musgrove is throwing on a mound, guys.
I hear you.
Fastballs. He's going to try hard Wednesday. Maximum effort.
The glove's popping.
Yes, the glove will be popping soon with glowing reports.
And that's just the thing. I don't put Joe Musgrove as somebody who they absolutely need this year. They got Michael King and Dylan Cease, but they need you, Darvish. They need you. He's been here. He's had limited availability. He still put up a win. He has looked really good at times. He has looked playoff starter Darvish at times. So they need him available, and they need Nando. Like we saw, he's back. We saw that whatever doubt we had when he didn't hit a home run for the first month of spring training, we don't need to worry about that. What we need to worry about is the dude is healthy.
I kind of sorry to do this, but I kind of have to push against the premise of this theoretical of like, is it about riding the wave? Because like, isn't that how everyone gets in? And
yeah, that's what
number one. Because the time for us to be like the Phillies or the Dodgers, I won't even say Atlanta, because Atlanta's like 10 games over, I think, right now, which is like good. We would kill to be 10 games over right now, but they could still fuck it up. Like, but if by some miracle, like the Dodgers are gonna be in the playoffs. The Phillies are going to be in the playoffs. The time for the Padres to be dominant and not need a wave is over. And so I just think that like they were going to need a wave no matter what. And what I really think this season's going to come down to, it's like, those like little kids who would like pick the flower petals off the flower, be like, he loves me. He loves me not. He loves me. He loves me not. We're literally hoping that the season ends on a he loves me. Like, that's really what it is.
Sure.
Because that's what the team's been so far. It's like win streak, losing streak, win streak, losing streak. You just hope we end on a win streak. You know what I mean?
So, right. Okay. So we agree. We agree. Yeah. I admit it's kind of a weighted premise. It's hard to disagree. Everyone has to catch a wave in some form or extent. But when we agreed that that's what we are, basically a mid team with good parts, but injury issues that are structural. They're probably long-term for the season. And then we needed to come together in a fashion to win. Is this the year, as we go through these, and now we do it, we'll go through and we'll do our rankings, we'll do our position group discussions. Is this the year that we want to put all our assets behind incremental improvement, behind making this team a little bit better?
And what, are you talking about long-term top 5 blue chip assets?
Yes. Or is this, or maybe could next year be, I'm not saying that we give up on this year, but that is this the year that you invest in 2022 going to get a guy like Juan Soto? That's an investment that you make because you're trying to win the World Series that year. And the Padres tried to win the World Series that year or the next year, right? Like,
yes, that's key.
Yeah, I'm for it in the right circumstance.
Yeah, I don't think that we're going to part ways with any of our blue chip guys unless we're getting, not just this year, but also next year and potentially more in terms of team control. I don't think AJ will do that. Also, like, you can see historically in the last few seasons of baseball, like, teams are just not willing to pay for rentals. Like, it's just like they've all gotten too, I mean, again, it's like everyone's gotten too smart. They all know it's like probably not worth it. And you're going to see some really talented players who are pure rentals get traded at the deadline. And it's going to be like, really? That's all that they got? It's because people know that it's 2 months. It's 2 months of production for 6 years plus of potential prospect. So oftentimes those are going to be lottery tickets. So I don't think that the Padres will push in for a blue chip if they're not going to get multiple years to control. The question for me then, Craig, is do we really have that much confidence in 2025 that we're willing to blue chip now for someone who's going to come back and be a part of next year's team too? That's my question.
So if we think that this is it, then of course everything should be, not nailed down to the wall. Everything should be all the nails should be taken out. Everything should be moved. But I don't believe that.
Should be a bacchanal, an orgy.
I think that there's a path for this team to have success for years to come. And that doesn't have to be at this expense of this year. But I also think that the biggest mistake AJ Preller's made in this decade was overcommitting to a team in 2020. And I think it cost him 2021 and impacted the two teams to follow. The same mistake could easily be made again. This team's been heavily invested in this year already to get Dylan Cease and Luis Arraez. Is it worth it? That's it. I just want to leave that in everyone's mind. Is it worth it? Is this the best shot that we've got? Or do we have a better shot in us? And we might just want to ride this one out and see where it takes us. Let's talk about our infield. Infield for the Padres this year, their deepest group, right? Supposed to be their deepest, most talented group. Supposed to be the group that we have absolutely the least worry about in terms of the Padres 40-man roster. How has it turned out on the infield this year? Just thinking offensively first.
Well, go ahead, Chris.
Not good, because Manny Machado sucked for a significant portion of the season and was out for other parts.
Yeah, I mean, if you go around the horn, and you go first base, second base, shortstop, third base, your combination of Luis Arraez and Jake Cronenworth at first base has been really good. I mean, like, I've been very, very happy. Obviously, very high average with Arraez.
It would have been great had Arraez not hurt his thumb.
Yes, I completely agree with that. Second base, you have the really poopy Xander start mixed with, Cronenworth, who's been, since he's moved over to second base while Xander's been hurt, pretty good. For a second base bat, pretty good. So I think you're kind of about that. Ha-Seong Kim has a 104 WRC plus. He's just above league average, playing the rock solid shortstop he always plays. According to Fangraphs, he is tied with Fernando Tatis Jr. as the second most valuable player on this team. I think that's a very accurate representation. Quietly putting together a very good season, a very solid season. And we talk about it all the time. this team goes as Manny Machado goes, and Manny's been hot lately. And you've seen it in terms of this team has had some of its more resilient streaks as Manny's been doing well. But if you look at the whole, he's a 111 WRC plus right now. Right now on the season, Jake Cronenworth, Jackson Merrill, Fernando Tatis Jr., Jurickson Profar, Donovan Solano, Kyle Higashioka, really small sample size, but Iggy Rosario, if you want to throw it in there, all have higher WRC pluses than Manny Machado. And so while Manny hasn't been stinking it up as he was earlier in the season, it's kind of hard to say that this team's infield unit has been a success. And I think really it's mostly on Manny. Like, this team is built for Manny to carry it, for Manny to slug where he hits in the offense, the effect that he has on the team. And he hasn't been doing that. And so the infield unit has been middling.
Okay, I agree with all that, but I've got to just bend back to the beginning of the year with Bogaerts, because if we're talking about the first 99 games of the season, Xander was leading off for the first 20 plus games, sucking up all the oxygen of the offense and playing his absolute worst. Now, I thought it was really interesting. Annie talked to Xander over the weekend and kind of asked him about everything he's gone through in the first half. And the thing he was the happiest about as a, kind residual of an unfortunate accident is that he's been working on his second base routines as he's been coming back. And he's been working exclusively at second base, because what he told Annie was that it's really affected him, and he didn't want it to be like, oh, it was a bad thing or they mishandled whatever. But we can say they mishandled this. They kept him in the dark in the offseason, and he's had it in his mind. He had it in his mind at the beginning of the year. Oh, I'm turning the wrong way. Oh, am I doing this right? Everything's reversed, all your actions, and it affected him. It affected him to play poorly. The fact that he's had kind of another spring training's worth of time to get more used to second base, he feels a lot more comfortable now. But I think the Padres botched that. They did it probably out of necessity, because they probably were looking to trade Kim, or not looking to, exploring options that included Kim trades. And so they wanted to keep the possibility of Bogaerts staying at short real, but they weren't communicative with him. They didn't give him that opportunity to get a head start on it. He had a terrible start to the year, and it has an overall impact on where the team is stacked up offensively on the infield.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Are we like grades? Are we doing scout
we
grades?
I
Are we
don't
doing
know.
scout scores?
I don't know.
Are we doing the Homeland Security danger alerts?
Ooh. I don't even remember which one was the worst one.
Either. I remember red was so
orange,
bad.
I think, was bad.
Orange was bad, yeah. Yeah, it was like
Orange
red,
is
orange,
still
yellow,
bad.
green, right?
Yeah.
It was more complicated than the fire.
Homeland Security alerts? We can do better than that.
Let's just do school grades, even though they don't use school grades anymore.
Fine. I love
the contempt on Craig's face.
All right. Manny Machado, C, because he has been a bang average player this year when he's actually a superstar, but he's also been working his way back from a serious injury that he probably came back 6 weeks too early to. C for Manny.
Or we're going to do each player?
I don't know.
Jesus, let's just do the units.
Okay, overall, the infield has been a disappointment based on what it should have been.
Yeah,
I will give them a C- overall.
I'm going D+ because Manny needs to be better. And Hassan Kim hasn't been the defensive wizard we wanted him to be. And Luis Arias has been leading off while hurt. And Jake Cronenworth, well, he's
been really good.
He's been really good.
Yeah. I'll go C- because I think Kim, I'm going to defend Kim. Kim has been, I think, pretty solid. And Jake Cronenworth has been solid. And Luis Arias is, when he's not hurt, has been superlative. and when he's hurt has been bad. When he's hurt, he's basically useless is the kind of the issue, and he's been hurt for some time now. I just wanted to point this out too, that right now our infield defense, we have -3 outs above average as a unit on defense. That's 19th in the league. That's not something that I had expected to say about this defense, about this infield. This was a superlative defense last year and the year before that, and I really can't explain why.
It's Hassan.
But it's not. The quants say no. The quants say Manny has been the worst defender on the team by a large margin, and also that since they got to the right side infield of Cronenworth and Arise, that those two graded out as the worst and second worst.
Yes, because Arise has never been a good defender. That's established. And Jake Cronenworth transformed his body in the offseason. He put on weight to gain power, to try, and because he thought he was going to be the first baseman of the team. And he was playing fantastic first base defense until they moved him back to second base, by which point his body had completely changed because he didn't think he was a second baseman anymore. And so this is more of the what we've seen as a long track record of AJ Preller plugging and playing and putting guys in and thinking you can just stick guys wherever and thinking it'll work out. And I won't say it's been bad every time, but it's certainly been a mixed bag whenever it happens. I mean,
it shouldn't be like your reflex. It shouldn't be like, let's do that. Let's put Jake Cronenworth in right field.
Yeah. And perhaps this can serve as a transition since we all just gave our infield grades. Like, it worked for Jackson Merrill, so it worked great for Jackson Merrill. Yeah. And so, AJ's always going to be able to point at him and say, oh, well, it worked for Jackson Merrill. But like, I can point to, Will Myers being at third base that one time. And for every Jackson Merrill, there's 5 Will Myers at third base. You know what I mean?
Yeah. All right, so let's switch to the outfield, which coming into the season was thought to be the weakest position unit for the Padres by a long shot, and the one that would have the greatest amount of concern. As a point of fact, Jurickson Profar is starting in the All-Star game for the National League as an outfielder. So put that in your emergency podcast and laugh at, like he's been Mr. Relevant. He's had his career 99 game sample of his career, to be sure. Jackson Merrill, I think, is the single best story of Padres 2024 so far. The thing I should be the happiest about is that Jackson Merrill is 21 and he's at the All-Star game, and he looks like he could be a legitimate star in this league, that he could be a cornerstone of this team for years to come. He is one of the reasons why I fight back against the doomeristic, fatalistic, we have 2 years and then we're cooked because Manny and Bogarts are cooked, and when they're cooked, we're cooked. Like Jackson Merrill and an in his prime Tatis, and maybe an ascendant young catcher in Salas, a guy in DeVries that could be a superstar in this league. Like, could have 4 of those guys in the team at the same time, affordable, and we're going to be terrible? I don't understand. So outfield, Merrill, and then Tatis until he got hurt. He was doing his thing, and he was playing hurt while he was doing his thing. I got to give this group an A, and that is understanding that the next person behind is what? It's Tyler Wade running around there in the outfield. It's Bryce Johnson having to start. So there's no depth if you want to knock a grade for no depth, but the actual outfield, I can't give it any less than an A.
I'm right there with you, man. And I can't knock the grade for the depth because you can only build the club so deep. It has an incredibly deep infield with some versatile guys who have helped the club win. They had hoped Jose Azocar would take a step up. They knew who he was, but they had hoped that he would build on his success. Well, that's not quite the right word, but his performance the last couple years, and that didn't happen.
I think you can knock the unit for depth, and I will be doing that. And I do think you can make the team deep enough to have a actual major leaguer who you can say is a 4th outfielder. I don't think that's too. There are more infielders than outfielders on the field. That's just a fact. And they've been able to make a deep infield, and they haven't been able to make a deep outfield. And I think that is that's not the player's fault, but the fact that, the Padres have had, I think it's 19 games where they've had either Bryce Johnson or David Peralta starting or Jose Azocar starting in right field. That's bad. Those aren't major league starting outfielders. And so, while yes, it's true that 3 of the top 6 NL outfielders by FWAR are San Diego Padres, that's fucking crazy.
I just don't know the alternatives. You look at the free agent board, there's nobody there. Like, they could have went out and got a Kevin Kiermaier, but playing part-time with Nando in the outfield, is it any different? Is he...
And maybe this should not be a demerit.
Trent Grisham is almost at a 700 OPS. Is that what you're saying, Raphie? We should have held on to the Grish?
I'm not saying that. I'm saying that maybe this should be on AJ's grade and not on the outfield's grade. But I do think it is a failure of the organization that there is not someone in the pipeline waiting. I mean, Tirso Ornelas is there theoretically, but there's a reason the team hasn't called him up. 100%. You know what I mean? So if they haven't called him up and he's not out there in right field, then there's some sort of larger failure going on. So I'm going to say A-, and that minus is given with a broken heart because they really don't deserve it. It's not on the players, but I'm sorry. If you're running Bryce Johnson out there consistently, it can't be a straight A.
That's fair.
Bryce Johnson is not a guy.
You said it. We don't have to. You said it. Well said. Okay. Catcher. Camposano, we had a lot of hopes for what this year was going to be. I think April, he looked like he was redeeming those hopes. I don't know if that was the same type of false hope that Nelson Cruz and Matt Carpenter gave us with a bang in April last year. I don't think it's a death rattle for Luis Camposano's career, but we are now in a real position where Kyle Higashioka is the starting catcher for the San Diego Padres. He's earned it. He's a sabermetric darling. He's framing, throwing runners out, homering, and walking a couple of times. Like he's doing just what you want the guy at the bottom of the order to do for you. Camposano, meanwhile, hurt, back, struggling.
Stance.
Sullivan's around sometimes. What's our grade for catcher? I went first last time, so I'll go last this time.
I'll go first this time, and I'm going to go B+ because Higashioka, and that's about it. Like, he has had a 99% season. It's paid off getting him for our beloved Grish. I'm going to just go high just for him because, he's been a great story. He's provided us with some great moments. The walk-off. That grade's solely for him because Camposano's an incomplete. The dude has not figured out his stance. If you look at it, his home run from just a couple days ago, he looks completely different in his stance than he did just a few days prior to that. And that's because he adopted the way of the samurai coming into this season with a really bizarre, loud, long swing that got exploited right away by Major League pitching. And then he got hurt just after he had started to make adjustments for that. He had started to move his hand back and close it off and was starting to have success again. And then he came back and it was all open again. And now it's closed off again. So that just means he doesn't know what he's doing right now, which is a bummer considering his success last year and what having a controllable guy who's in ARB the next 3 years behind the plate, what that would mean to the chances of winning in 2025 and 2026 would mean. So he gets an incomplete, but for the unit as a whole, just for Kyle Higashioka, I'm going B+, man.
I don't know how you can give him an incomplete. The games all count. He's been bad. He's been really bad. I'm giving the catching unit a C+. The plus comes from the recent Kyle Higashioka Hot Pocket, which has been great. And I think Kyle Higashioka has been more than we could have hoped for.
This is who he is, Raphie. This is who he is.
I mean,
118 or WRC plus. Is that what it is?
But I believe that he is a 100 WRC plus guy playing plus defense and being a catcher to a knuckleballer, which I don't think all of his defensive statistics are taking hits by the fact that every 5 days he's catching a knuckleballer. So like his blocking runs have taken a hit this year. Some of his framing stuff's taken a hit, but like he's catching a knuckleballer. I think he gets a little bit of a curve on that. Luis Campusano this year has been a abject failure of the organization. I think it is that bad. To be the dominant presence he was in limited appearance last year, and then come in and say, I'm going to change everything about my swing for basically no reason. And on top of that, to take a step back defensively so that he's now one of the worst
real
defensive.
Step back.
Yes.
I mean, he's terrible.
He's really bad behind the plate. So he's not only worse as a catcher, he's also bad as a defender. We had someone like that named Austin Nola as our catcher. And it seems as if this team can't for some reason.
That's Austin Nola slander. He's great. He's a framed god.
Well, I mean, hey, he knew how to call a game. You know what I mean?
No, he had a rapport. Yes.
You were talking about a 10-year major league veteran.
He didn't grade well at anything.
Yeah. Yeah. Are you talking about Austin Hedges? Austin Hedges is a great framer.
Oh,
Austin
shit.
Nola.
I'm sorry. I just totally I'm sorry. I just brain farted the hell out of that. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. That's how anonymous and shitty the catcher position has been for the Padres for the last decade.
Nice save, Rafe.
It's okay.
Well done, Rafe.
I'm rambling now. C+ for the catcher position, Craig.
Yeah, that's right. C+ is right. There was a lot of campy mixed in, a lot of struggle camp mixed in. Higashioka's rescued the grade. The beginning of Higashioka was nothing.
0.
2 months of like 3 hits total. But now he's playing. He's doing a good job.
This is citizenship grade too, by the way. I'm incorporating them both.
It's fair. If you play Kyle Higashioka full time, there will come a point where you have run out of your Kyle Higashioka content. Like he'll stop offering you offense. I'm afraid. Maybe not. Maybe he's got 400 great at bats in him this year, and it's going to net him an amazing contract next year in Major League Baseball. Because remember, he's a free agent, and he'll be gone next year. We're not going to re-sign him to be our starting catcher. Probably. I don't know. Would he take a 1-year deal? He loves to surf. I don't know, but he's been really. Does
Campusano have any trade value?
I don't think right now. I don't know.
Well,
maybe.
No, but like that's a massive organizational hole that you then would have to fill. I mean, the nice part about Campy is that he's cheap. Like no matter how good he is, like he's been injured and on and off the team for so long that he's not going to be a free agent. I think until like 2029. At which point, if
he's heading into his next year of ARB next year, first year. So it'll be 2007, right?
I'm looking it up now, but he's supposed to be on this team for free agent 2029. He's ARB eligible 2025. He's going into his first year of ARB next year. He still has less than 2 years of service time. Yeah, because he's not going to be a Super 2 guy. So he's going to be on the team for long enough to serve as the bridge to Ethan Salas. I think plenty long. If Ethan Salas is the guy who they think he is, he serves a very important role on this team. He just needs to stop fucking with the swing. So that's where I'm at. C+.
Yeah, I think it's fair. Okay, let's switch to the mound. Starting pitching rotation completely revamped, as we discussed at the beginning. So let's just get to it. We already talked about the starting pitching at some length earlier. It's hard to give this group a collective grade because you're mixing these individual performances into a soup, and within those, you've had, I think, a really, really good underrated season from Michael King. He's not yet 100% transition to being a starter. We've watched that transition. He might be done now. Or be 98% complete. But at the beginning of the year, he would see his pitch count just run on him. And every once in a while, it still happens. Where he's just striking everyone out, but it's 6 pitches every time and he can't get more than 5. But with that said, he's on pace to throw 180 innings for this team this year. And that's amazing. And if you had told me anything over 150 innings and an ERA under 4, I think you're getting a really, really, really good season from Michael King. So King has been really good to me. Waldron has been obviously a huge, pleasant surprise, and continues to deliver length and has just been such a workhorse for this team. How could you expect that Matt Waldron would be a workhorse? And Dylan Cease is the actual workhorse in terms of true innings pitched. He's like at 115. He's given you what you paid him for, but included in that was the volatility that helped him be available to be acquired. And Dylan Cease had a period of great volatility for this team that did not help them at all, where he was a very not good pitcher for 8 starts in a row. He was just about the best pitcher in the universe the last time he threw. So you never know what you're going to get. It's why he's the number 1 on the staff. And then you got 2 spots that have just been leaking oil for the longest time. I think the overall grade for the starting rotation for me has to be below average, because you got to throw in Joe Musgrove's bad starts, Darvish's few good starts, and then being out. I'd say there was C- rotation so far this year, with all the good stories that they've had within it.
Yeah. I think it's quite interesting. I was just curious, like just really quickly scrolling through like leaderboards and stuff like that in terms of where the Padres rank in terms of their pitching staffs. And I was really surprised to find that the Padres are 12th in F4 in terms of value produced by the starting rotation in the league. Puts them slightly ahead of average. Given the fact that they've been without 2 of their marquee arms and they've been throwing out Randy Vasquez and Adam Major on a regular basis. Again, one of those things where I, at the beginning of the episode, if I told you X, then Y, like, yeah, if I told you Darvish and Musgrove would be missing and the team would still rank like above the top, in the top half of the league in terms of F4 generated by the starting rotation, I think you'd be thrilled. So, given the fact that the rotation has been worn down by attrition in terms of injury, I'm going to give that the starting rotation a B-.
I'll split the difference and go C+, because I'm just so disappointed. I really thought with you and Joe, we were looking at watching some great starting pitching this year. And then there's Joe's health stuff and not guys getting entirely right and not getting Darvish and Cease's somewhat inconsistency. But if you go and look at Cease's stats, just like you pointed out, Raphie, he's been darn good. He's been keeping pace with the better pitchers in the league. Michael King's not far behind him. He's been the guy that we wanted him to be. And then Matt Waldron's been amazing. So C+, they pass, but I'm really disappointed at what could have been so far. And, looking forward to a healthy Darvish makes me think that there's room for that grade to really, really go up at the end of the year.
Yeah, I think you guys are both more right than I was. I started off saying all the good things and then gave the worst grade. C+ is the proper grade, in my opinion. And I'd like to upgrade mine to C+. I just can't get over like some of the horrible starts we've had this year to get them into the Bs.
They've been traumatic, man. And I looked at something, and it's going to play into the relief pitching, but Padres relief pitching leads the league in low leverage innings pitched. And that speaks to me to 2 things. To number 1, the offense getting ahead in games, and then they bring in the relievers, and there's not a lot of leverage situations there. And then having the game gone before a relief pitcher even has a chance to throw a pitch, be it with Major or, Dylan Cease had a few seeming 3-inning appearances. Those have created a situation where they're very low in the league in high leverage innings pitch, and absolutely at the top for low leverage among the bullpen.
So let's transition to the bullpen.
All right.
I'm sorry, guys. I can't give 1 grade to this bullpen.
You can't have Bobby Bullets in with Pedro Avila or Enyel de los Santos?
Yeah. And if I do, then it just becomes a C. It's just like the guy who combines every cookie into one cookie.
Yeah, all the
It's
soda
just-
flavors become
Yeah.
gray.
It's just a brown mess. So Robert Suarez, Adrian Morahone, and Jeremiah Estrada. Robert Suarez and Adrian Morahone get an A. Jeremiah Estrada gets a B+.
He got the flu, Craig.
He's been not great for more than he's been great.
He lost 15 pounds.
I know. He got a B+. Okay. And everyone else gets an F.
Wow. Logan Gillespie?
F.
Straight to jail.
Straight to jail. Logan
Believe it or not,
Gillespie.
jail.
And the day left sent F, 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 F across the board. They have effed up so many games. How many games this year have the Padres been up by X number of runs, and then they've had to get Robert Suarez into the game or at least warm up Robert Suarez? It feels like every time.
Yeah, like 3 games come to mind where we went back and went, this is going to hurt them tomorrow. This is going to hurt them in the next 2-3 days. I can think of 3 games where Suarez came in after a 5-run lead was blown that we went, well, shit, this will have consequences.
Yuki Matsui on a curve is leading in the F room. Okay? He's over there like, well, I'm still the best student in this room, but you're still in the bad room. All right? You're in the yeah, F+ for you for walking everybody, but at least keeping the ball in the park. But you summarily, Yuki, Wandy Peralta, Eniel De Los Santos, Stephen Kolek, Brito the mop-up man, Avila the mop-up man, Tom Cosgrove. Every one of these pitchers have not only really pitched poorly for the team this year, they've also obnoxiously occasionally pitched well and given Mike Schilt just enough hope to kill him all the time to go, well, maybe Wandy Peralta can get a double play out of this situation, or maybe Eniel De Los Santos will get a swing and a miss on the slider instead of hanging it center to be hit for more homers than any reliever is allowed in baseball this season. Maybe this time Stephen Kolek is going to keep that sinker on the corner instead of elevating it to the top of the zone where it's going to get whacked around. Every one of those guys has given Schilt along the way a good outing, and he's also given him a disastrous, unpredictable, unreliable outing. And that's what every guy is in this pen outside of 2 guys, Suarez and Morahone, and Estrada sometimes, is unreliable, inconsistent, prone to blow up, leaking runs, and that's why this is not a good bullpen.
Yeah.
I have literally nothing to add to that, Craig.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's encapsulated in one stat that we've talked about on the show before, which is the clutch stat. If you remember, last year was the second most unclutched team of all time, the 2023 Padres, meaning that their performance in high leverage situations on the offensive side of the ball was, I think, 9.5 wins worse than in the average situation. That's what the clutch stat is. It's how you perform in high leverage versus average situations. And this team on the offensive side of the ball has been the complete opposite. Right now, the Padres on offense are 2.51 games clutch, 2.5 wins on the clutch column. And we have seen that. They've had lots of walk-off wins. They've been a really fun team to watch offensively late in games. Jurickson Profar, I think, is the most clutch player, one of the most clutch players as of the time of this recording in baseball. Now, if you were to isolate it just on the pitching side, just to relievers, the Padres bullpen is negative 2.09 games clutch this year, meaning that basically all of the gains that were made on the offensive side this year are erased in high leverage situations by this bullpen. And I think that sums it up entirely. You want to look at the team's record. They're 50-49. They're just a little bit better, just a little bit above average. And if you add their batting clutch to their reliever clutch, they're just a little bit in the plus column, and that's the whole season.
And this goes to why I do want to see AJ get a little loco at the deadline. Just to shore up this unit, primarily. Starter, you can do the same thing with the starters because there's enough guys that can fall back into the bullpen. You know, Randy Vasquez might be all right back there, probably not. But this is where they need help. And for now, yes, for winning games to get into the playoffs, but in the playoffs, like they can't ride all three guys to 3 series wins.
No.
They're gonna need another big boy Major League Baseball bullpen pitcher.
But this kind of goes back to my original overarching point. Again, I'm not trying to be fatalistic or doomeristic. Only one team wins the World Series and only 2 teams make it.
Yeah.
The due to the volatility of the tournament, anyone could make it because the dominoes could fall right. But this team isn't built to win the World Series. This team isn't built to win multiple series in the playoffs. Could they be built to win a series? Yes. Yes. They could be built to win a series. Dylan Cease could come out and shove. You could pitch Waldron game 2 or King. You could pitch King game 2 and use your victory relievers twice. Get some big homers, some big hits. You could win those 2 games. When you start getting into a second round, a third round, getting deeper into the staff, exposing the staff, that's where you have a really hard time putting this team on the stage with Baltimore, Cleveland, the Yankees, the Astros, the Phillies, the Atlanta Braves, the Dodgers, and saying that they could just go toe-to-toe and have no problems and win multiple series. That's why I resist moving a Salas or a DeVries. Listen, you want to move a pitching prospect? Move a fucking pitching prospect. Every once in a while, you're going to get that wrong. Most of the time, you're not. Most pitchers aren't going to make it. It's just the nature of it. It's crazy. No one makes it. Or maybe there'll be a reliever for another team down the road. But you need to trade Robbie Snelling. Okay, trade Robbie Snelling. But I mean,
oh, okay. We're just tossing out Robbie Snellings left and right. Is that what's happening?
No, not left and right. But if you had to make a trade, if you could make a trade to improve the team that involved a pitching prospect, right? Because you need more of them for continued currency. God forbid one of them actually works out. Then cool. Okay. But don't move a position player that's going to come up and make an impact for this team in the future. That's gold. That's absolute gold. And you cannot move that. Guys who are trying to figure it out, those are lottery tickets. Position players who are developing, I think they are developing into stars down there. And that's what those are the guys you want to hang on to. I'm not talking about Jacob Marcy, right? He gone. I'm talking about the tops. I'm talking about Salas and DeVries, the number 1 international signings the last 2 years in a row.
The Rangers faced this exact scenario last year, needing bullpen arms, and that's exactly what they did, Craig. He wasn't a prospect. Cole Reagans was a relief pitcher who hadn't had much time in the bigs, but basically a prospect, and they traded him to Kansas City for Aroldis Chapman. And was that a clear thing that helped them win the World Series? Not necessarily, but he pitched in the playoffs quite a bit, and they needed somebody to pitch in the playoffs quite a bit. And Reagans has gone on to be, the left-handed Jacob deGrom or whatever. So it can come back to bite you, but they also won the World Series because they reinforced the bullpen and had arms that could at least take the leverage inning when needed to, for better or worse.
I feel like that team was more like last year's Padres, big salary tax, big veterans, big money, that making a move like Reagan's makes sense because you're getting that one piece you absolutely need. And that was the thing that Texas absolutely had to have, was a better back end of their bullpen. They had no chance to survive. The Padres aren't where the Rangers were. You know, the Padres are at 500. The Padres are a 500 team. Like the last time the Padres were 10 games over 500 was 2022. And honestly, they did all that work before the All-Star break. Got up to 16, 17 games over. They finished 16 games over. So they've been basically a 500 team since the middle of 2022 to now. And I don't know that we're one Cole Reagans for Aroldis Chapman away from anything. So I hope I'm not talking out of both sides of my mouth. I'm not saying on one side, sure, just trade Robbie Snelling. I'm saying if we're gonna make a trade, which I'm sure we're gonna, to try and improve the team, if we move a pitching prospect, I'm not gonna freak out on this show. But if we move one of those two guys, I'm gonna lose my fucking mind. Like, because I just don't think we're there. I don't think we're anywhere close to a place where there's any one trade out there, unless someone's gonna just go insane, that's going to put us over the top.
It's nuts that the Storm Chasers were so adamant that DeVries needs to get moved right away.
I know. Talk about a miss.
Those guys. Reactionary. What's going on with the rubber ducky in Lake Elsinore? That's what those guys need to fucking figure out.
Yeah.
What's going on with that thing?
You guys focus on getting that grass hill reopened.
Mike,
they got bigger fish to fry right on the pavement. It's so hot.
Did we give grade? Yeah, I agreed with Craig's grade, so I'm good.
Yeah.
Mike Schilt?
I was going to talk about Mike Schilt.
Mike Schilt?
Go for it. Begin.
Okay. I think because of everything we've talked about with the bullpen, I've seen in our Discord a lot of people criticize Mike Schilt's bullpen usage. And I'm not going to become an apologist because I do have some thoughts, but I really don't think there's a lot that Mike Schilt could have done differently this year. I think my biggest quibble, and this is, recency bias because of what happened yesterday, is that I'd like to see a little bit more of what we've seen him do a couple of times so far this year, which is using the best reliever in the highest leverage spot based on the other team's lineup, not necessarily where the inning is. So when he brought out Robert Suarez in the 8th inning that time to face the heart of the lineup, I fucking love that. And what he failed to do in the game against the Braves yesterday was in the 6th inning when they had 2-3-4 starting the inning in the 6th inning. He brought out Stephen Kolek, who's proceeded to get shelled, and the game got out of hand. Instead of bringing in Morahone or Estrada in that situation with the All-Star break looming and knowing that you could pitch anyone in that situation. So that's my one tweak. I'd say Mike Schilt has mostly done a good job. He's been annoying as fuck to commentate on because he's already got his little alibiing, whatever, but I don't have to like him. The only people that have to like him are the players. And if the players like him, and it seems like they do, I think it's fine. So I'm going to give him a B+.
He's a massive dork. He is a tremendously uncool person. Like the John Boy videos with the throw me out. Yeah. And the other day where he blew a bubble of gum that covered his whole face like he was friggin' Calvin from Calvin and Hobbes. But I happen to really like uncool people. I get along with them well. So I don't hold that against him. What I do hold against him is not even the bullpen. Like, his hands have been tied, man. There's 3 guys that are great, and then, like Craig said, they're all Fs. They're all failing. What's he gonna do? Like, if you're talking about, when somebody blows up on him in the 6th or 7th inning when people are unavailable, it's such a nitpicky, easy critique to make, and I'm not going to do it. I'll instead go for another really nitpicky, easy critique to make, and that's he's been a little too slow to make adjustments in the lineup. Manny got going after he got dropped to 5. That was Manny finally started kicking up once he got down a little bit. And that, I'm not saying that's the result of it, but I'm saying he hit 4th sucking for a really long time when he could have hit lower, and the world didn't stop. The glaciers didn't melt because Manny got moved down. In fact, he got a little bit better and the team did good. X leading off. He was terrible for far too long, hitting number one, and he didn't need to be. Arias leading off while hurt. Like, I don't blame Arias for trying to play through the injury. I get it, but putting him in the number one hole when he's not a guy who sees a lot of pitches, he's a guy that swings at him right away. That works in leadoff when he is Luis Arias that we saw when the trade happened. When that guy is there, it makes sense to put him in the leadoff spot. Helps carry over the lineup when the 9 guys on. It loads and puts people on for Tatis. I get it. But we haven't been in that situation for a while, and he's still been plugging him in, and it doesn't work. So I'm going to grade Mike Shildt at a B- for being a little too slow to make adjustments to the lineup. And it's that high because he's a dork, and I kind of like that.
Huh. Good commentary from both of you. I think the number one thing Mike Shildt was brought in to do was to create synergy between the manager's office and the Office of Baseball Operations. And I think that has happened. I think there's been no friction between those two, almost to the level of I'm thinking to myself, like, well, do I really even ding Shildt for not pushing a rise down the lineup? I feel like there's so many politics in the
might
Padres
not necessarily
lineup.
Be his call.
I mean, how much politics? Xander, well,
Yeah.
now you're switching him from short to second. You don't tell him. You drop the bombshell on him. He drives in literally the first day of training camp as a shortstop, pulls into his parking lot as a shortstop, and then turns into a second baseman when he walks through the door.
Craig, you made the case for dropping him really early in the season. That's exactly what I said. I said you had already dropped one thing on him. You're going to do another, but you were right. They needed to put him down.
Well, that would have been the right thing to do strategically, but maybe not politically at the time. And he's had to navigate these really weird waters of having a synergy with the front office combined with the politics of a bunch of big money contracts that really have more cachet than he'll ever have. Manny, in 1 second, can end Mike Shildt's term in San Diego. And Mike knows that, and frankly, there's probably a list of players beyond Manny that could pretty much end Mike with just one trip up the elevator and be like, this fucking guy, get him the fuck out of here. And he could be gone. He has navigated all of that. He has been given a bullpen, a whack-a-mole bullpen. I mean, fucking Johnny Brito was our first attempt at setup man this year. They didn't even call up Estrada until May. This has been a mess. On the field, what he's done for this team on the field, I'm giving Mike Shildt an A-.
Wow.
I think he has been, look at the chemistry of this team. Look at how they've played together. Look at how through 4 different 5-game losing streaks, they haven't lost the plot at any point in this year. This thing has been a fucking wagon made out of Tinker Toys rolling down a cobblestone drive, and it still hold together. Like, this thing could have fallen apart forever, and it could fall apart in 2 weeks. It could. It's been this rickety for a while. On the field, I give him an A-. The things that you can ding him are mostly things that are in the run of play, decisions being made in live fire. You got to give people credit for the decisions they make in live fire. It's a tough job. Off the field, media management, D. Honestly, I have no interest in hearing a word he has to say anymore. I heard him say the smarmiest shit to AJ in the last scrum on Sunday when he was asked about the importance of the road trip, and in the fucking cheesiest voice he probably could, he said, "The first game against Cleveland will be the most important game we play all year. And then the next one. We have 63 bullets, and we're going to fire them all." Like, I get it, man. You're just a walking cliche. You're this, you're that. So I don't take that against his real grade. His grade is to run this team. I think he's had a really difficult situation. I think he's navigated it beautifully for the most part. And I think his handling of the media is so whatever. that if I was somebody that was assigned to cover the team, I would literally stop showing up to the things that he said. And I would just go, okay, so he said this or that. Cool. All right, fine. I would stop. If I had to keep my recorder there, I'd put the recorder there to be a professional. I'd set it down and I'd just bail. Because what he says is meaningless. What he's done, I think, has been good. All right. AJ.
Man, it's so hard to give AJ a grade just on 2024. That's not a larger part of the whole thing. I think in terms of
and 3 weeks before the trade deadline.
Right. Which could change everything.
Sorry, you guys froze up for a second. I was just saying that, like, if you look at what AJ's been able to spin out of kind of whole cloth this year, he has basically, he brought in Cease in what I still think is a good trade. He brought in a Rise in what I think is a great trade. Like, I think those are big pluses in AJ's column. He took a team that, yes, they traded Juan Soto, which you're never going to get points for that in my book, but he made the best of a bad situation and potentially buoyed this team against disaster in terms of like where it was headed with the pitching situation. So I think that that's all great. That being said, the team doesn't have a fourth outfielder. Major problem. The team doesn't have more than 3 relievers. Major problem. And there was a third point I was going to make, and this is my Rick Perry moment, and I can't remember exactly what it is.
It's the energy. It's the
Department of Energy.
Outfielders
Department
and
of Energy.
relievers.
Cut it.
And fuck, I don't know. You guys will think of it. So AJ's got a C in my book because he's exactly who we thought he was. He just drafted a bunch of high school pitchers to start the draft. He's gonna flip those guys to the White Sox in 2 years. So AJ's AJ.
Yeah, I guess his grade should just be AJ. Like he is what he is. You make a good point with the bullpen. The Matsui deal has not worked out.
Peralta
has not worked out. I mean, the only way the De Los Santos trade worked out was in terms of lowering salary because De Los Santos has been a fucking nightmare. To be honest, I pretty much hate him more than Emilio Pagan right now, and I didn't think that was possible. And also, it's all on me. And if the hell site was a better place, I would have been doing a Pagan meme for De Los Santos a long time ago. He's earned it more than Pagan ever did. He's given up more homers than Pagan ever did. That's insane. It's insane. Okay, so there is that. Fourth outfielder, I hear you. But what handcuffs has AJ Preller had on since the end of last year, since the passing of Peter Seidler? He's got maybe a hostile upper management. Certainly was given a mandate to cut payroll around $100 million. Through that, they've put a team out there that has been more fun than last year's team. The Cease trade was good. The Arise trade was good. The Merrill is the best thing of the whole year. Got to give AJ Preller maximum credit for Jackson Merrill. Didn't trade him, drafted him, selected him, didn't trade him, promoted him, proved that the Padres can do this, and that it can work. I think that's huge. I think AJ's had a good year overall. I feel like most of the moves he's made for this team have been good, and the ones that have missed were defendable. I don't know in hindsight how defendable Wandy Peralta was with that 5 FIP. Yuki, there's projection on these things, right? And he could still theoretically, I guess, get better, although he's never going to get bigger. So I just don't know. I don't know about that. But overall, I got to go higher than C. I'm going to give him a B for what he's done in 2024. And this is where the real incomplete comes. The midterm exam is in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So if he fails that, He's off the res. I was talking about this on the radio today, guys, and I don't want the show to go on forever. We've got plenty of time to talk about AJ Preller, but I just don't know that he's committed any firing offenses this year.
No, I don't think. I think it's clear he hasn't. I mean, the bullpen is a problem. Like we spent the last 20 minutes talking about it. We don't need to go over it. But as far as the guy's job, which is to keep the farm stocked, talent pipeline flowing, he's done as good as we could hope, you know. And as far as I know people don't talk about this when it's a general manager doing a good job, but as far as being just exciting, I know you don't get points for it. You get points when you win championships, or go deep in the playoffs. And his success there has been rather limited. But I don't know, man. I like having the guy as our general manager because I know it's gonna be exciting. Like I know he's gonna try to win a damn championship, and the bullpen shots haven't worked. They have completely missed. Chalk that up to whatever it is, but no, I don't. I think he's done more than enough to get his next year, and I was concerned about that coming into the year.
All right, let's wrap up with we have one more on our list, and it's the broadcast.
Oh yeah, now I can get hot.
Padres TV.
Padres TV.
I just want to be clear, we are discussing the television broadcast, not the jewel of the broadcast that can be heard
wonderful
on Odyssey Corporation waves, including the free Odyssey app, free to download, free to use, AUDACY. Also, you can hear Padres baseball live and local on the Odyssey app with Jesse Agler and Tony Gwynn Jr., who are my corporate teammates and dear friends, and I actually think do a great job. And so we're not talking about the radio broadcast.
I actually demanded this get put in for one reason and one reason only. And that's because Mike Winters absolutely throttles the best broadcast team in baseball. Don and Mud have such a wonderful thing. And for once a week, seemingly at least, we have been subjected to a friggin' internal affairs officer in the booth, you know, explaining things from the cop's perspective, like not even trying to show like this is where the cop is going wrong, but it's like, no, this is where he was justified in doing it. And it's been a complete drag. I don't want to see it anymore. I understand that Major League Baseball is in charge of the production and they're going to do lots of things that makes Major League Baseball look great. Guess what, guys? The umpires are not one of them. The umpires are a thing that is dragging down Major League Baseball. So just trying to put somebody in the booth who interrupts the flow of two entertaining AF dudes, I'm sick of it. So Padres TV, B- until, and this is, I would have said A every single year dating back to Matt Vasgersian. But Mike Winters has been a complete drag in the booth. It's not personal. He seems like such a nice guy. I feel bad saying it. But from an entertainment product standpoint, man, it's been a drag. And I don't want it anymore. I actively mute it now. I go to Jesse and Tony because they're fantastic at it. And I don't have little hairs crawling all over my body. So yeah, that's why I asked that broadcast get put in there. You guys don't have to say anything disparaging if you don't want to.
I'm not going to say anything. I agree with you about Mike Winters. I'm not going to say anything disparaging about Don and Mud. What I will say is every time I look at the Padres broadcast and I see the beautiful stadium and the sellouts and that the fans are there, I'm like, you know what? Like maybe we're going to be okay. Maybe all this financial stuff is just, you know, all like worrying or whatever. And then I hear Don hawking group suites like 27,000 times a game.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh no, maybe we don't have any money because they've been making Don work so hard this year. Every half inning, he's selling something, giveaway, bobblehead, anything. And I'm like, oh, this sucks. Like makes me worried. So I'm not going to give a grade to the broadcast, but that's just something that I've noticed.
You know, I think Don Orsillo is one of the best play-by-play broadcasters working in baseball. And if he was going to do other sports, he'd be one of the best working in other sports. He's incredibly adaptable. He's got that kind of corporate ability that he can go be a Roku or he can go be a TBS. And when he was doing a Roku and cheering hard for the Diamondbacks when they were getting hits off the Padres, I felt sick to my stomach.
Yeah,
Yeah.
To hear that level of enthusiasm. But this guy's an old pro, and he's handling a tough situation well. Mud has been there forever, obviously. Scan and Tony fill in. I would say a little bit more generally, I think that the Padres TV broadcast has taken a giant step back compared to even Bally. And it's crazy to say that, but I think this is actually a bottom third broadcast now in Major League Baseball. It's entirely larded with self-promotion. It is one of the least informative broadcasts in Major League Baseball. It almost tells you nothing about the team at all. When the team is struggling, it literally tells you nothing.
Yeah.
The way that this show is now clearly being produced is one that I disagree with. I think they have taken a lot of the fun out of Don and Mud by forcing them into generic commentary. Sometimes I feel like they could just run out AI of those guys and let them take a week off and people wouldn't even notice, until it got to the point where they had to get to the booth to hold up the latest jersey, t-shirt or whatever, to sell. The camera angles haven't been as good. The graphics, the music stinks. I know these are little things, but I think the broadcast has taken a big step back. I don't think Padres TV has been good for the Padres. I know it's not been good for them financially, but I don't think it's been good on any level. It's been a bummer to me. It's really been a bummer. And that's knowing that there's a lot of great people that are doing good, hard work there, but I don't love the direction of it. So,
And Mike Winters is a symptom of that, right?
well, but it's not just that, right? Also, God bless him, but like Palm is brought on, and if it's not him, it's Scan, every game in the third inning to just do a talk show.
Yeah.
Through a half inning.
They're not even covering the game
at all. The game is going on. A ball will go down in the roll and be like, oh, yeah, that's a double down the line. But Scan, back to the spin rate of curveballs.
100%.
Let's get back to today's hot topic.
Yep.
Young pitchers in the game today. Let's talk more about Paul Skeens. It's obnoxious. I don't, the pre and post games are throwaways now. There's nothing to it other than getting the Schilt commentary, and you've got no reason to listen to Mike Schilt anymore. So honestly, I think the broadcast has been a real bummer. I wouldn't go on like this, but you did put it up for grading.
I wanted to know what you thought of it.
I've been really disappointed. I've heard, this is not, by the way, just like a completely solo flight opinion. I've heard it plenty of places around, but I've been disappointed.
We haven't talked about it at all.
No, I'd like it to be a lot better than it is. I don't think it's very good at all. That's harsh. There's good people that have the chance to do good work, but these guys don't need to just be that generic. I think every major league team that's in charge, and this is across sports, that's in charge of their own broadcast, they're afraid of their own shadows. They're afraid of truth. They're afraid of facts. They're afraid of instead of embracing the thing that makes sports great, which is that there are wins and losses and scores and stats, things that we can hang on to, things that we can all agree on. You walk away from a game, it's 7-2. You can't go away and say, my team actually won 9-0 and you're a bunch of liars and it's all fake news. Like, it says 7-2 up there. And the next day in the paper, the win is recorded, the loss is recorded. The next day on Fangraphs, all the numbers are in. You know what I mean? Like, people should be happy that they live in a place of objective truth.
Yeah.
And instead, they run from it and hide from it all the time. And it's unfortunate that things being taken in-house has made them just to this bland version of themselves that only has the same label on it. I don't even think it's very resembling of what it used to be. With that long diatribe aside, Any other grades we need to give out? Do we need to grade ourselves? Do we need to grade
Oh, please,
my
no.
hat? It's the Cadejo, but they could have
A
gone red
plus
eyes
for-
instead of blue. Do you want to give a lower grade?
No,
I mean-
A plus to everybody who has listened to us. Thank you very much for doing so.
Yeah.
All right,
A
good.
plus to our members who upgraded during this annual membership drive, which once again runs through the trade deadline, July 30th at 3 p.m. beginning now. If you become an annual member at the lowest level, at the $5 a month level, which will obviously be annualized, you'll get 20% off a Waldron Cauldron t-shirt. If you do it at the big or huge patron level, you will get a free t-shirt and you will get $10 off PHT breaks. So what do you have to lose? Let's do it. Coming out. Annual membership drive. Annual.
Or you can just get the t-shirt, padreshotub.com/merch. If you just want the t-shirt and you don't want to mess with anything else, we still are happy about that. No matter what you want to do. All right, we'll be back later with more stuff. We'll have group therapy with our Discord patrons. And we'll have a second half coming up that I'm a little too worried about right now. I want them to go out there and win some games and tell me to calm down, little boy. It'll all be all right. But we'll
Go
find
win an
out.
all-star MVP, Jerkson.
That would be cool. Out of the 9-hole? Could it
Sure.
happen? Why not? Why not? Grand slam.
Isn't that
Just
where
get the
Diaz
guy
hit
on bases
last
loaded
season?
at bat and see what happens.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be special. Let's see it happen. All right. I think this podcast is not quite as long as Home Run Derby, so that's good news. For Chris and Raphie, I'm Craig. Go Padres.